Now, back to Silver Moments with Dr. Marsha Baltimore.
Thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to say about training. I trained for the Senior Olympic swimming, and I won it. I broke the minute. I was crazily accepting that. I couldn't believe it. But that's the truth of sexuality. It's a physical event. So you have to be in physical shape. You have to train. So training sexually will also help to improve your quality of life when you get much older, because you're going to still be there with your husband or your lover. Now, the late entertainer Maurice Chevalier said, sex can be great if a person stays, quote, in training. And with a twinkle in his eye, he said, the only difference, this is Maurice Chevalier, the dancer-singer, the only difference, he said, between a man of 40 and a man of 70 is 30 years of experience. Now, you remember that when you have an argument with your wife or your husband, and kid around about stuff, and don't get so heavy serious that you're going to go to a divorce court or something. Don't do that. Just see what you can do at home or with a sexual clinic somewhere at a hospital, and they'll teach you stuff. You might like it. And it probably wouldn't even hurt your everyday life about regular health, like walking or, in my case, swimming or whatever you do. So I'm giving that advice from Maurice Chevalier. Thank you for listening to that part of it. Now I have something else I wanted to talk about. That's also in Miss Carol's book, Sex After Marriage. This is about marriage rules. Marriage rules are written in a manual by a psychologist named Harriet Lerner, PhD. And in her manual, she gives all kinds of rules that are so fascinating. Why don't you call me up? I'll read you some of them. My number here is 800-336-2225. Once again, 800-336-2225. And we'll find out what some of the rules on marriage are. I bet you didn't know that they had rules, but they do. So I'm going to read a few of them, and if you call in the meantime, I'll read you more, or we'll discuss what you want to talk about. First of all, we want you to know you're in stages and ages of life. That's the first thing. So when you're very young, you learn about each other. And as you get down to parenthood, you have to focus on the kids and sometimes run around the block to be alone and have your partner help you run, or have your partner stay home with the kids while you run, or he runs, one home, one running. So you have to heed everything. And when you do that, you're going to know what life is all about. I have two favorite rules from Dr. Harriet Lerner's book. One of them is, don't let the inmates run the asylum. That's what she says. That's Rule 72. If your kids run the show, you can bet that you and your partner will be always stressed out. The two of you have to be in charge. So you have to decide on the rules, and you can't get arrogant. Learn how to talk to your kids when they get to teenage. Learn what their slang is, and maybe you want to use it a little bit, under control, stuff like that. Agreeing on the rules with your husband or your wife. What matters is that you respect each other's opinions and reach a consensus about rules and about consequences that you both can live with, even if you don't agree. And then clarify them. Don't get polarized. Don't go in a corner and he goes the opposite corner. It's not a boxing match. So, for example, some women won't let sugar in their house. So, eat it at the restaurant. And he may think saying no to the children is reasonable, mature, And she criticizes him for rigidity. And he takes him to the restaurant for sugar. And she says, I'm not going. So I would say, go, lady, and just don't order sugar for yourself. And tell them, I live without sugar. I don't want it. But you can have it if you want it once in a while. So try to come to a middle of the road with that. Rule number 80, for women especially, is do less. There was a woman named Lisa who came to therapy complaining about her husband. He wouldn't help out at the home despite the fact that they both worked full-time. And she had to clarify a new position with him. So she chose a time when it was calm. And she wasn't angry at him. She just said, Richard, I have a problem. I'm doing so much work in the house. I'm tired all the time, and I'm resentful. I think I'm carrying too much for myself on the load, and I'm exhausted. Can you help me to find a little more time for myself? And Richard said, we'll work it. And so a couple of months went by, he didn't do anything, and the time came when Lisa made her actions congruent with her words. She made a list of tasks she continued to do, and she wouldn't let pile up things happen in the kitchen or in the living room. And she made another list of things she didn't want to do anymore because they were too physical for her or too timely. So she just made a list, and she told him, I have to let go of a few things. So the husband said, well, I'll cook when we have friends over. I like to cook. And she was thrilled. And he did. And he was a good cook, so the people liked what he did. He was a chef. She got him a chef hat. So now she took a new position in her marriage out of a sense of responsibility for herself, not against her husband. So she said, I needed help. And then they had to change the process and talk about getting someone else in to do the heavier things. And we'll talk about the money problem that encouraged when we come back.